Ms. Zamakuzwayo, who is our acting senior manager at the Office of the Strategic Office. Over to you, Ms. Kuzwayo. Thanks.
Good afternoon, colleagues. It's good to have you back. It's been a while since we've had our brown bag sessions. I hope this will be one of the most exciting brown bags to kick off since our little bit of a longer break since we had our brown bag sessions. I hope you've got your lunch right next to you, your tea, your coffee, whatever you're indulging on. And I hope you really get to learn with us, because that's the main purpose for these session. It's we learn a lot within the spaces of our lunchtime. We just give up our lunch time in terms of instead of going out, but we give you an opportunity to sit and learn new things during your lunchtime. I don't think that we can ever stop learning and knowing things, knowing about new things that are happening out there, but most importantly, things that are happening within our city, driven by our colleagues. Our municipality is large, and sometimes some of the things fall off the cracks because we really do not have that opportunity now and again to interact and share what we are doing in our own small corners. And yet some of the work that our colleagues are doing is really groundbreaking and can benefit us all. I am sure some of you, when they got this invitation, they were wondering about the single source of truth. What do we mean about that? The truth to what? Some of you might not be aware, but last year, September, we launched our Strat Hub, of which is what we call our single source of truth. The Strat Hub actually was an initiative, or is an initiative, by one of our colleagues here within the strategic office, which is research, advocacy, and policy development, which is Dr. Mbata, where he realized that there's a gap in terms of how the cities are driving, their development, their strategy and policy development, and how we plan our city. To say that what informs us in terms of where we're going as the city and how we must deliver, or how it must be packaged. So this single source of data, colleagues, it's not about just having data, but it's research data. So there needs to be some sort of analysis that is there in the data, so that it informs you, it guides you in terms of your decision making and your planning, as I've indicated, whether you're developing a policy or whether you're developing a strategy, but it will help us. Since then, we've received so many accolades nationally and internationally. Equally, in those platforms, we have various people wanting to partner with us, wanting to know how did we do it, how did we pull it off, how did we get the support in terms of the stakeholders who are involved. But the crux of the matter, the Strat Hub was really developed for us, the city, in terms of us as officials, us as in terms of the council leadership, in terms of decision making, particularly also as our stakeholders, in terms of having an access or to a window in terms of what is the city planning and what is out there and what is the shape of the things that are out there. So it's for us to use. And so today, we've got our colleagues, Ustinongema, no Jaden, Jerem. Jaden, if I've also pronounced your name wrong, you will correct me when you introduce yourself. They are the team which has been supporting us in our journey in terms of the establishment and the maintenance and feeding the data and making sure that it makes sense and it looks the way it builds and the way it feels as you go. And we're hoping that as you interact with them, you will able to get a buy-in and a comfort to, have an appetite and, a commitment, particularly in terms of using this information, because what's the point of having this information and it's not used as we had intended as a city to use it? So I've got Jaden, which is our applications engineer trainee, who is very enthusiastic about using information technology, and she's been assisting us in terms of transforming the city for us to become techno savvy and be a city that is data driven. We also have Ustino, which is also an applications manager within EThekwini, and he's had 9 years experience in terms of both private sector and local government with regards to the maintaining of major system like this. And as you can imagine, that so many people are coming on board and want a piece of what we have done and they want to partner with us. But I will allow Ustino to come in and just lay it all and give us a tour and give us more information about what is the Strat Hub and how we can use it and how it could be our Bible as a city in terms of the way to go to when it comes to our information. I really hope you enjoy this session. I really like our project. It's always exciting. For me, it's a candy shop. We're sort of like presenting a candy shop to you, colleagues.
Thanks, Zama, for the introduction. I think you've introduced the project very well. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I want to introduce myself again because I think you've actually introduced us very well. So I'll just go straight to my presentation. Start it. Okay, so I'll present the first half and allow JJ to present the other half. Okay. So my first slide talk about the strategic alignment of this project to the city. So the aim of the project is to provide city leadership, officials, communities with access to tools that support insight-driven policy and strategic decision-making. For example, on the portal already we have various tools. We have availability index, we have Green View, Metro View, we have the Edge portal. We have various dashboards that talks about various operations and functions that we have as a city. So those tools already that are on the platform, they are supporting the city to become a strategic decision-making city. Okay, the second point talks about the support that the strategic hub is providing to the EThekwini on its journey of building a data-driven culture where decisions are based on insights and not instincts. Okay, so we are currently in the project to integrate the city data, and we believe that if all the data sets are integrated, we can improve the insights that can come out of our data. We don't believe that we should have data sets that are in silos. Currently, when you have to do a report, you really have to get data from maybe one department and get another data from another department. Maybe use Excel to manually integrate the data. So our role as a startup, we believe that we can perform the exercise of integrating the data for the city, find the relationship between data sets so that we can improve the process of decision making and so that the business can be able to create insights from the data. The third point talks about the positions that the startup is putting the city to. So we position the data as a critical infrastructure for efficient service delivery. Basically, what we are saying about this is because we do have a lot of data in the portal already, we can measure the operations of the city through the startup. We can measure the change of operation over time, the performance of different field staff in the field. So with that, we can assist the city in improving the service delivery. So again, we believe in open data. We've shared a lot of data sets to the public. We have GIS data that we've shared to the public. We have open, H portal, the economic data that we've shared to the public. All of those data sets will assist basically the public in terms of you know, providing feedback and also to engage with the city in terms of decision making. So that supports core governance. Again, if you look at the fourth point that I have on the slide, where we said, StratHub will support a responsive city that promotes core governance. We believe that if our public have access to our data sets, that can assist us as a city to engage with them, to understand how they feel about what we do, and to see how they feel about the operation that we providing to the city. So core governance is about us and the public to engage in decision making on various operations of the city. So this takes us to the next slide. Okay, before I go to the next slide, I'd like to mention the achievements of the startup. So we became the World Smart City. We became the finalist in 2022 in the Expo World Progress, and then we got two achievements in the GovTech, and then again on one of the in one of our dashboards was advertised on the Esri map. That's where our achievement for 2022. And again, that shows that what we are doing is really on track, and it's something that the world is appreciating. Okay. So the overall objective of this project, again, is to integrate the city level data. We believe that data must be integrated for good insights. We believe that data sets must be overlaid with other data sets so that we can get a complete picture of various operations that we have in the city. We believe that if we process and transform data to fit the business needs, we can actually provide a better reporting for the business, and we can provide capabilities that will assist the business to be insight driven. So the second point talks about digitization. So basically what we are doing at the moment, we have done a project with Sizakala where we're converting manual forms into digital forms. We believe that if forms can be automated, also we can get more data for insights, because we do believe that data is critical for the city, for various operations that we have and for various functions. And we believe that data can be useful to the public as well when it comes to decision making that we do as a city. We also believe in open data to the public and to the city through data sharing. Open data basically means that we open the data from various systems within the city to the public so that the public can have access to our data. And again, this talks to core governance, where the public can also engage the city when it comes to decision making. We believe that insights that we can create from the data can actually assist the business to make better decisions. So we'll improve the decision making of the city through the data that we provide. And again, we also believe that if the trust by the business, if they trust the data that we have, we can actually create a better city that believes in data-driven decision. So that will take us to the next slide. We talk about data integration. So we're trying to put the data integration concept into context. So here we can see that we are looking into water business, not the entire city. But again, this can be created for other units and operations that we have in the city as well. Here we're talking about Folman data. So if data can be integrated, basically we can have a unified view. Okay. So for example, in this case, we have GIS data here. We have JDE, which provides contractor payments information. We have human capital data that provide information about employees, overtime, and leave information. Fleet with vehicle trips and vehicle details. We have Foldman with fault details and field staff information. Revenue with revenue collection and revenue information, and population from state to state. So we believe that if data can be somehow integrated, where in one single view you can access data from various systems. So data integration means that you could potentially query the storage that we have for one fault, potentially be able to see, who was paid, which contractor was paid for that particular fault, and which employee, if it was an employee that was working on that fault, and then was that employee working overtime or normal hours. What was the vehicles, which vehicles were used to complete that fault? Because you'll find that there are different departments that are working together to to complete one fault, but there must be a correlation between the fleet that was used and the number of faults that were completed. But you see, if maybe an employee complete one fault and you find that the employee was working overtime for 3 weeks, and then you can see that already there's no correlation between the faults completed and the overtime that was granted. And again, with JDE, one fault you could potentially see the payment that was made for that contractor, and over time again see how often are we paying the contractor, how much are we paying the contractor, are we paying, which contractor are we paying more than any other contractor. But again, what we are promoting is that with one unified view as a business user, you just query one place. You don't have to request data from various departments. So when you talk about data integration, we're talking about a unified view where there's access to multiple data sets in one view. And again, if we talk about states SA here, we also want to see a correlation with how many people are affected. How do you know how many people are affected if you don't know the number of people who are staying in that particular area? So this diagram basically is just a sample of how we feel data can be integrated around the city for different operations, just not just water. We're just making an example with water business. Okay, which takes us to the next slide. Okay, data harvesting process. So this is how we basically harvest the data. We first identify the data sets. We extract the data from those data sets that we've identified. We do processing of the data through data engineering and transformation, and then we visualize the data for business use. So basically, this is the process that we follow to actually process and transform the data for business use. Okay. As part of data harvesting, again, I'd like to talk about the data sources. We have data sources that are online, like your surveys. We sometimes deal with APIs, for example, the human capital dashboard that we're working on. We have social media. On the social media part, we get data that comes from maybe Twitter and Facebook, and we also do analysis on that. We've done this for social sentiment dashboard. We have data that come from on-premises dashboards, on-premises databases. Sorry. For example, we've done visuals on JDE on the inventor dashboard. We also get data from the cloud databases and files like Excel, your CVS, CSV files. Okay. Let's to the next slide. So in this slide, we're talking about the three-tier data tech initiative. Okay, here we're just showing you that the StratHub basically is made out of three tech initiatives, which is data visualization. We visualize geospatial data, like spatial data. When we also deal with statistical data, which is non-geospatial data. We also deal with cloud warehousing. Okay, so data is basically hosted in the cloud where there's enough security and where data sets can also be modeled. We also deal with digitization of forms where we convert forms into digital forms. Okay. And then this slide that talks about our technical architecture. So here we are showing that this is the architecture basically of how the data is transformed. We have various data sources that you see on this side, where data can come from SharePoint, on-premises databases like your JDE, DB2 databases, APIs like your human capital, and various Excel files. And then we have a data engineering component where data is transformed and pipelines are created so that we can automate the movement of data from various sources. And then we have our storage, which is our Azure SQL, where data is stored. And then we have Power BI or any other reporting tool that the business can have that can connect into our storage and do visualization. Could be Excel or any other tool. But of course, this is the current architecture, but we are working on improving it. We're planning to change this part where we will basically use maybe a data lake instead of just SQL Azure, because with the data lake you can actually store both structured and unstructured data. Okay. This now takes us to the challenges that we've experienced as part of this project. We have experienced poor data quality. I think we are generally bad with data capturing on some of the systems. Could be possibly because of maybe validation on the side of the systems, and we also, data is not that open internally. You'll find that it's difficult to get access to data. There's huge resistance from business users. When you request access, they feel that maybe you are taking them. So we do have a resistance around that. And some of the data sources are also managed externally. So when you need access, you need to speak to service providers for that access. And we lack a lot of metadata around data sets. You'll find that you have access to JDE, but you don't know how tables connect to each other to make meaning out of them. So this is just an example of the data challenges that we generally have. Like we find EThekwini is spelled in different ways. Okay. Okay, this takes us to the next slide, which basically a research that we did to support what we are talking about today. But this is a report that was done by Vincent Bone regarding the issues that various organizations are having when it comes to data integrations. And this report was conducted in 2020. There were 500, different cities and companies that were interviewed regarding the use of data and the challenges that they have around data. Okay, so organizations only use 51. These were just the findings. I'll just talk about them because I feel that the city also relates to these issues. When organizations only use 51% of the data it collects. So you can see that only there's a lot of data sets that are not used, not only by the city, but the whole world. Many companies are still struggling to use most of the data that they have. Okay, this could be many. There could be many reasons for this. Maybe the data is not integrated. Could be access to data, as I've mentioned in my previous slide. It could be the fact that maybe other people are not happy when when people tap into their data sets. The second point talks about the fact that 29% of respondents were having a complete trust to the organization data. This is another issue that people don't trust the tools that we develop. They they don't trust the data and the values that they see on the dashboards. That could be because of many reasons, because maybe they don't trust the software, or they don't trust the algorithm that we design in the back end to create the visuals. So there is a significant role that we need to play to make sure that the business trusts the data that we provide. And the third point talks about the fact that only 74% of respondents agree that they have more data but struggling to use it to generate insights. So here, what is happening is that they have data, but you'll find that they are dealing with silos. For example, when they query data from Foreman, they're only dealing with Foreman. But if they can integrate the Foreman data with other data sets, they can generate more insights. So I think here the reason was because they were just dealing with data in silos and they couldn't generate proper insights. Okay. That point talks about the fact that 80% respondents believe that legacy technology is holding their organization back. Okay, so what is happening here? Some of the legacy technology take long to it will take you long to generate a report. For example, when you, like in previous days, when you create a dashboard, you will have to deal with reporting services, or you'll have to deal with analysis services, which are tools that are maybe will take you a long time to to produce a dashboard. So in our days, we have things like Power BI, where you can just create a dashboard in a day, and you could potentially create a dashboard the same day that the user requested. And within the tool, within Power BI itself, you could potentially clean and process the data, because you can actually create a model within Power BI itself. So the respondents believe that technology as well uh, can hold back the organization from becoming data driven. Okay, the other point talks about the fact that 40% of respondents agree that data integration and sharing remains a problem. data is in silos. So again, this point emphasizes the fact that many organizations around the world are struggling to get the data together into one unified view. Okay. But again, I feel that the fact that we have started this process of integrating the data sets, we will change this view. Okay. And 70% of respondents say that data is a top priority. Um, but majority are yet to generate value they have set to achieve. So again, many organizations believe that data is of value to the businesses that they have, but they're just struggling to get it together. So it's a journey to get the data into a point where it can be integrated. Okay. Okay, that takes us to the last slide of my presentation. So this is a quote by Daniel Moran that you can have data without information, but you cannot have information without data. So what this means is that without transforming and preparing the data properly, without integrating your data with other data sets, you cannot actually have information. So the data needs to be cleaned, processed, integrated in order for it to make value. So thank you. I'll hand over to Jaden to take us to the next part.
Okay, thank you, Stino. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so good day, everyone. I am Jaden Jairam, and I'll be presenting to you the second half of this presentation on the StatHub. Uh, so on the StatHub website, we host a number of dashboards that provide insights on various functions and operations of the municipality. Some are only for internal use, i.e., EThekwini officials are only allowed to access them, and others are made available for the public. Making these dashboards public support our objective of becoming a responsive city that promotes co-governance. Here is some of the dashboards that we host, like the EThekwini Road Crashes dashboard, which mainly focuses on trends which can inform us on the leading causes of road accidents in EThekwini. Then we have the EThekwini Flood Impact Dashboard, also known as the EThekwini Disaster Dashboard. This dashboard provided real-time reporting during the April and May 2022 flooding disaster. We also have the Human Capital Dashboard, which provides critical insights such as staff retention, staff experience, staff overtime trends, leave trends, etc. Then we have one of my favorite dashboards, which is the social media sentiment analysis dashboard, which focuses on the public sentiments and opinions of the city on social media, which I find to be very important because the public's opinion is a big contributing factor when it comes to making ourselves be a more cooperating government. Um, then we have the ward profile dashboard. It provides a detailed economic information uh, for each ward. And yeah, as you can see, we have a lot of dashboards, and you can check them out. You can check the rest of them out on the startup page. Uh, on the next slide, our dashboards on the StatHub are there to cultivate an insight-driven decision-making culture by integrating city-level data, which will result in a more efficiently run city. Uh, in the images below, these are the dashboards that we show. This one here being the EThekwini 2022 floods impact one, and this one here being the EThekwini road crashes dashboard. To the next slide. So on the StatHub, we have various platforms like the Open SDGs platform, which came about when EThekwini looked at the sustainable goals and personalize them. So this platform provides a way to track those development goals. We also have the livability index, which is an index that measures if different suburbs are livable or not. Then we have the Edge portal, which provides cutting edge economic intelligence and insight to economic decision makers. Next, we have the Green Book Metro View, which provides specialized and quantified climate risk data. To the next slide. StatHub provides open data platforms, and some of the platforms that we provide are like the OpenGIS data. Here we have opened our GIS data, which can be accessed through a portal which you can use to search, download, and connect to geospatial data sets. For example, you can get access to cadastral, housing, and environmental data. We also have the Durban Edge portal. Here you can get access to open economical data. This portal was designed to assist key researchers, investors, business leaders, and politicians. Basically, anybody in big positions who have to make big decisions. On to the next slide. The data Strat makes use of the following data platforms. The primary one being SQL Server. There are many systems that are sitting on this platform. We have also connected to DB2. We use this when we are creating the inventory dashboard. We also have Oracle. There are two main APIs we have connected to, which is Space to create the human capital dashboard, and social media, i.e. Facebook and Twitter, to create the social media sentiments dashboard. We store the data using Azure SQL. We also get data from Excel files, reports, SharePoint lists, and we get our special data from ArcGIS. On to the next slide. An example of what we can gain out of special data is location intelligence. We are able to do multi-level special data aggregation and representation from ward level to suburb level and then to town level. We can already aggregate information and present it. As an example, in this diagram is the amount of crime incidences that has occurred at firstly suburb level, in this case being Amanzimtoti, and then per roads, and then eventually visualizing it in a map form. Location intelligence gives us better understanding of location dynamics as well. Just look at the example again provided. If you look at the map, we see that the beachfront beach road is the main area with the most crime. We could analyze the impact that it has on things like tourism and business performance, and we could see that we can layer a special data with other data sets. In this case, it being tourism and business sets, business data sets. The next slide. These are some of the data ingestion tools we make use of. We have the Azure Databricks platform, which allows you to run SQL, Spark, and Python. And then we have a local on-premises tool, which is a SQL Server integration services that can help you with data transformation and data cleansing. And then we have a cloud solution, which is called a data factory that can automate the process of cleansing the data, and is also used to create the pipeline that we make use of. Some of the future plans that we have is we want to tap into machine learning, artificial intelligence, Azure Synapse, and eventually create a data lake because it's cheaper than physical storage forms. To round things off, I'd like to say thanks everyone for listening to us. And I also hope you guys enjoyed your delicious lunches during this brown deck session, but I assure you all nothing is as delicious as our dashboards and insights that the startup provides. Thank you.
Thank you, Sina and Jaden. As I had promised, it's like we are presenting a candy shop store, colleagues. I actually said to my colleagues, I'll make more commitments in terms of less scrolling on Instagram, but clicking on the Strat Hub to get information and just getting to know about different neighborhoods in our city, just for myself to be more knowledgeable in terms of what is happening in my city, regardless in terms of my field. I don't know if colleagues have any questions in terms of the access, the kind of information that they would like to see, maybe some sort of a demonstration on how to use the Strat Hub. I'm acknowledging you, Jonathan. Yeah, I welcome colleagues to really indulge us on this session. And probably indicate to us what is it that you would like to see in our dashboard, and maybe sort of like maybe indicate to us which partners you would like us to see partnering with to manage our data as we move forward. Jonathan, can I start with you?
No, thank you, Zama. Thank you, Chairperson, for that. And thanks to the colleagues as well for the presentation. I think it's really positive and a step in the right direction. I think for our city, it's really useful. I just wanted to understand, maybe there may be, I just entered the meeting maybe 5 minutes so late, but maybe just to find out, is there a particular roadmap that we perhaps have in terms of how the various units and information is going to be come together so that it can be shared on the various dashboards. I'm suspecting what was showed here was just providing some context in terms of an example. But if, as an example, a unit would like certain information integrated and then displayed, how that would come about. So I just want to find out, is there a roadmap basically that we may have?
Fino and Jaden, do you want me to take another question or you want to answer immediately?
Yeah, no, you can answer immediately. So the project basically aims to make sure that the data sets from various units are integrated, but obviously we'll start with few data sets. For example, I've highlighted water and sanitation, but again, the aim is to get all the data sets to talk to each other. So the process is, from my understanding is that if there's a quick need for your unit to have your data sets integrated, you can contact us on the strategic app email, and then we can maybe speed up the process for your units.
And yes, I know several units have approached the team in starting to do the work with them. Busiso?
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to everyone in this platform. Chair, my interest was when Mfokangema detailed the overall objectives. My interest was based on the bullet point that stated that they intend to improve also decision making as a public participation official. That's where my interest lies. I would suggest that maybe because I'm also part of e-participation, which I don't know how best can that be integrated as part of that bullet point that intends to improve decision making or data-driven decisions. I don't know, maybe, but in future I would like to see that pilot project being integrated in that aspect. Thank you, Chair.
That is a very good point, Mr. Madlala. Definitely, if we can be able to integrate that project, then we can also be able to sort of like track in terms of what the public had said, what the public had requested for their awards for the city to do. We can track in terms of how we're doing, or not even before on how we're doing, but to track ourselves in terms of the projects that we have lined up and the projects that we have packaged, to say that are they talking to what the people of Ward 1 had requested. If they requested a bridge, we don't build them a road, but we build them the bridge that they had requested. So I think that's a valuable point. I saw Dr. Klaba from the IDP had raised his hand. I don't know if he was on and off. Dr. Klaba, do you want to come in? I'm not sure if Dr. Kaba is being challenged. Colleagues, any other questions? I see no questions. Kumzile.
Thank you, Zama. Thank you, Stino, and thank you, Jaden, for your presentations. I just wanted to find out, with this initiative, how does this initiative assist? How does this initiative assist the community of EThekwini, and also with the setup of the dashboard and everything else? How easy is our communities get to access information in terms of service delivery? Thank you.
Okay, I think I can come in there. So we have various tools on the portal. I think Jaden highlighted that there's various dashboards that you can use to do your own analysis. There's open data, where you can, maybe if you are interested in economic data, you can go there and just have a look at that. There's livability index tool, a tool that you can use to look at how different suburbs are livable. So the data is available, and you can download it in Excel in any format that as a public user you want. So the data is just available. It's a matter of downloading and use and engage the city for any maybe questions that we have in terms of service delivery. If you're not happy about certain things, I know there's a ward profile dashboard that talks about projects that are happening in different wards. So you can actually engage the city, different units of the city regarding that as well, if maybe it's of your interest. But there are platforms, various platforms that are available that the public can use, and it's accessible. Yes, there some of the dashboards are not accessible to the public, but we do have those that are accessible to the public. Thank you.
I see Dr. Kaba has responded saying he's having a challenge with technology, struggling to unmute himself. Maybe he can put his comment on the chat. And I acknowledge you, Claire, that you've missed the presentation due to network challenges. I will request Steno and Jaden, actually not necessary to give you a presentation, but maybe give us, maybe towards the end of the session, give us maybe a 3 minutes demonstration on the link itself in terms of how people can use the information, not just to only share the presentation, but just to entice the colleagues, and equally share the link to the Straight Hub. Is it Faith?
Yeah, we can do a quick run. Do you want me to do it now?
Let's take the questions, and then maybe towards the end we can do the just a bit of a demo. Faith, I see you have your hand up.
I'm Faith Yeni. I wanted to ask, what are some of the key challenges and successes you've encountered with the development and establishment of this tool? And also, who have you partnered with to achieve this work, and what kind of supports do they provide? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So challenges. I think I did mention on the presentation that with few challenges around accessibility of data sets. There was resistance to some extent from other units. And I think the other challenge that we had is basically quality of the data from other systems. I think we had issue with quality. And I did mention something around data sets controlled by some data sets that you have to go through service providers to get access to. So those were the main challenges. And then in terms of partnership, we have a partnership with a good relationship basically with IMU in terms of resources and the tools that we are using in the project. And also we have partnership with Microsoft, the technical support where we need support. And I think we have also, if I could remember, there's another one that I'm missing, but yeah, I think those are the key. Those are the
Bremen.
key. Yeah, and the Bremen, that's partnership also. Yeah, Bremen as well. We have partnership with the Germans, the city of German, on the visualization of the visual model of the city. So we do have a partnership with them as well. Thank you. I think there's a missing one, but I forgot one.
I think that is fine. Maybe while there are no hands, for me, I'm probably not necessarily posing to you, Steno and Jaden, but to the colleagues in terms of when you are using the state SA data, how much of a disjuncture have you seen in terms of what you know and what you're collecting from the ground in terms of your project, and having to do further planning, for the next cycle, for your projects, in terms of how outdated is the state SA, and do you see an opportunity for the Strat Hub to bridge that gap in terms of in terms of the data? I don't know. Is there anyone who has a comment around that? I just want to quickly read up Mr. Klaber's Dr. Klaber's comment, but I just want to hear the colleagues in terms of how often the Stats SA updates their data, but how quickly things are changing on the ground. Do you think that the Strat Hub will be valuable in bridging that gap in terms of the accuracy, in terms of the up-to-date, well, let's say the most up-to-date data that we have, in fine-tuning and improving our plans and the programs that we are packaging? Or do you find maybe that this will be more of a constraint in terms of the legislation, saying that, we should only use the data from Stats SA? I would like to hear your views from you colleagues in terms of what do you think about the Strat Hub assisting us. Okay. While I do not see any hands in terms of the comments around what I was asking, but Dr. Klaba is asking how often is the data in the system updated? How has the uptake been since it was launched? And what additional software is required to access the dashboard, that is BI, etc.? Have any members of the team tested the dashboard outside of the production environment? Steno and Jaden.
I think people are using the Strat Hub. Just that I don't have the figures at this point in time. But if I knew there was such occasion, I would have run a report to get or to see how many people are accessing it and how often. But we do get people who are asking questions around it are about the data. So we assume that the fact that they are asking questions means that they are using our data. I can't remember the second question. I didn't write it didn't write it down. Can you remind me, please?
Well, it's the usability in terms of outside your usability of the dashboard outside your production environment. Probably somebody who's accessing it from the outside. Is it slow? Is it heavy? Is it easy
No.
to navigate?
Yes, I think it's quite easy to navigate. But again, if there was issues, we would have received maybe complaints from the users of various dashboards that maybe they're struggling to view the dashboards or it's slow to access the dashboard. So far we didn't get issues of the dashboard. And in terms of access, they can email StratHub, if there's any dashboard specifically that they want to have access to, and then we can start the process of granting them access, obviously with the approval of the business users of the dashboard.
No, your hand is invisible. You can come through.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues, for the very informative presentation. Mine is a follow-up to what Phumzile asked about.
Nomfundo? Is it
Hello,
me?
I don't.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
You can start all over again.
I want to find out if the dashboard is interactive. Can people send comments or ask questions through the hub itself? Thank you.
Okay, I think they are interactive, but I don't think you can ask the question in the hub itself. But you can contact us if there's challenges, with the dashboard, or you're struggling to use the dashboard. We can provide you with support whenever possible. And there is an email where you can just contact us, and there's someone who could respond to you constantly.
Nomfundo, would you like to see that sort of a feedback feature in our Strat Hub? Do you think it will be valuable, particularly for our customers to give us feedback and probably sort of like provide some sort of a data?
Yes, I think it would be useful if we can have some kind of a chat feature where people can send comments and questions that would be accessible to the administrators. Thank you.
Okay, we note your request. Thank you.
I'm not sure if there's a hand that I'm missing. Nomfundo, is that your old hand or you have a follow-up question?
No, it's an old hand. I'm struggling to put it down. Thank you.
Lungani? Lungani, I saw you had your hand up. Yes, Lungani, you can come through. I don't know, maybe Lungan is also having technical challenge. I'm noting you, Helen, that you were unable to access the meeting. I also had the same challenge, but fortunately we did the recording, so you will be able to have access to the recording of the presentation, and our colleagues will share the presentation. Lungan is saying his mic is switched off. I don't know. Teams is not nice today. Phumzile, I see you have your hand up.
If we could just get the colleagues, our presenters, to just share their information on the chat so that colleagues, when they need to communicate with them, they could either email or contact them. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, Lungani, do you want to quickly put your question in the chat? I will ask maybe Pumzile, you need to enable people's mic. I think that's what they're struggling with, the auto muting of their mics. Can you try and unmute Lungani? I don't know if Helen, you also want to put your hand up.
Sorted, everyone can mute and unmute themselves. Thank you. Apologies, Lungani.
Thank you. I was about to type my question on the chat box, but my question is related to the data integrity of the data sets that is feeding these dashboards. Like how sure are we, or how sure are you guys that these data sets are accurate, and how often are they updated with regards to the topics that you have characterized those dashboards? Thank you.
Okay, the dashboards are updated in different times. Some are updated daily, some you have to update them weekly, like your invented dashboard is updated weekly because there's no agency on the data that is there. But it depends again on the requirements from the owners of the data. So we update the dashboard based on the requirements from the business. In terms of accuracy, I think it depends on the data source itself. If the data in the data source is not accurate, there is a chance that we will produce the same data that is not accurate. But if the data in the data source is accurate, we potentially going to produce accurate data as well. But again, the business also tests the data to make sure that it's accurate. Yeah, that's what happens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A follow-up question. If it's not accurate, what some of the means that you guys do in order to mitigate that, portion, so to say?
Steno, can I take this one for you? I'm just happy that my mic is, I can unmute now. So this is what we encourage, because as the State Hub, we do not own any data set, or we are not custodian of any data set and data source in the city, right? Let's say we're tapping into one data source and we realize that, we can't categorize the data set quite accurately because there's so many variations of the data sets that's in there, and there's a bit of inaccuracies. So we go back to the business and say, this data doesn't seem accurate. Right. So please fix right at source so that the next time we pull it, or next time we need to run another ETL to pull it, there's no cleansing that happens in the process. So that's really our approach. Where we catch inaccuracies, we communicate back to the data owners, and we encourage for the data to be cleaned right at source, because we run extract, transform, and load processes to go back and read the data, So we do not feel we should be having processes within our ETL processes to cleanse the data, because the data could be, there could be many reasons why the data is wrong. What you cleanse today might not come up tomorrow. Another issue might come up tomorrow when you run the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you. That was clear. Thank you.
I think also maybe Israeli, you can indicate that as colleagues consulting you, there's a lot of work that is being put up front in terms of your requirements on how you would like the data to be submitted to your team to make sure that it is credible data.
100%. And a lot of the times when we work with data sets, we sit with the owners and say, hey, but let's look at this data, right? As much as we have our requirements, we were a bit flexible to say, no, let's look at this data, let's try and cleanse it for you so that the next time you update it, you know exactly how it's supposed to be structured. So that definitely happens within our processes. Thank you.
Thanks on that. Dr. Kaba, you're ready to come in?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Osis Pumzile, for me to be part of this meeting, because technology didn't agree for me to comment. No, Chair, I think I've put some of the questions that I had, and I will want to expand on those, because I might have missed also the response from Ungema. In terms of my questions, because I was in and out trying to resolve the technology issue. First of all, it's on the update. The reason why I think the issue of the update is very important, it's because we're looking at the system as part of the reporting and giving the status quo, and also be able to run with time in terms of us planning. I'm interested in the planning side of things, and maybe to explore the options of saying the system can it be also be able to report on issues of movement of people. I understand that there are some dashboards where you can be able to see, you know, where are the assets or where are the schools or where is the infrastructure, but people are moving every day and all the time. So if there is any other way of accommodating that within the system so that we'll know who we're planning for and where are those people that we're planning for. The second one is on the issue of accessibility. I think Ungema did touch on it in terms of certain dashboards being accessible to staff and others, to the public. But I would like to have more details in terms of who are those people that internally can access which dashboard? Because I think Chair, in her opening remarks, she indicated that we're all excited about the system. And as soon as it was launched in September, I think I was amongst the few that ran for it and actually wanted to see what I can get out of this system and assist me in terms of the planning. The reason why I'm asking that, because I've tried numerous times trying to access different dashboards at different times. It's either it's down, or it wants me at the BI, or it wants me to provide a BI credentials. And the support team gave me the form for a free BI or something and whatnot, and I gave it to IT, and IT said it's sorted, but still it asked me the same question. So I want also colleagues to look at how are they going to extend the option of providing more support, you know, to people like me who are actually, once you get into the system, as much as I don't know what is there, but I still have that interest of knowing what is it that I can be able to get out of the system and what is it that I can be able to use. And the last one, Chair, it relates to the feedback. It's part of the questions that I asked. I might have missed the response. The feedback and the uptake. What is the sense that the team is getting in terms of the usability of the system, and as well as the users? Who are the current users, and is the public starting to use it? I don't want the actual figures to say so many people logged in from the public and so many from the organization, but just to get the sense whether the public is using it and what are the issues that are related to them trying to access the system. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Got all that covered, the usability, the accessibility, the credibility of the data is still also a question. I think any one of you, Steno, really, Jaden, can respond to that.
Right. Maybe I'll start with the issue of the access, right? I think as it stands today, most of the dashboards should be easily accessible, right? I think the only one that you really shouldn't have access to, or most people shouldn't have access to, is the human capital dashboard, right? So around the down times and the up times, I think that's just the nature of IT systems. You know, sometimes it's the IT system, and sometimes it's network problems, internet problems, but the setup is generally up, right? I know that people are saying, I think I can see the comment that access is a challenge. I think on our side, we've tested this a lot. Most of the times there is availability. I think I'm on it right now and I'm trying to look for those outliers where there's no access. I'm struggling to find one. So if the users are experiencing those type of challenges, that's why we actually have the contact details, that email, right? So when you have a challenge, just drop us an email, because it could be just a secluded case, right? And we could look at it right there instead of just suffering and not saying anything and not sharing with us exactly how you're struggling. In terms of providing support, I think I've covered that a bit in the fact that you can contact us directly if you're having challenges with any of the dashboards, or you can just maybe drop us an email using the startup email. I think the other question was around how often the data is updated. There's various dashboards that certify various needs that will have different update frequencies, right? So we can't really say the data is updated every day, because there's different dashboards in there for different reasons. As an example, we try every day and update the human capital dashboard because there's a lot of changes that happen in that system. In some instances where the data doesn't change often, right, we don't have automatic updates running every day. We find that that's not necessary, right? So if you look at data sets like, let's say, the livability index uses data sets with schools, right? And it's always been a challenge to try and find a single source for the school's data set. There could be a new school that is built today, but we'll only learn about it when we start querying the Department of Education for updates, right? So that really can't happen every day. But we do have other internal processes that assist us to get the most up-to-date data, because if you look at the school's data as an example, that's already a data set that we host within the GIS environment outside of the StratHub environment, and the StratHub is making use of the data directly from the GIS. So there are internal processes within corporate GIS as well to contact the data owners, right, and say, do you have any updates this year? Do you have any updates this month, right? Sometimes they're triggered by requests, right? So I also had in that question, I heard you, Dr., touching on people movement, right? I didn't quite get that. If maybe you can elaborate, I'd be glad to try and answer you.
Through you, Chair. In terms of the people's movement, I'm talking about the issue of urbanization.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
want to say that, because you'll find more people are moving here and maybe others are moving from here to Adams. There were open spaces that now are being occupied over time, and we want to understand that if we can be able to cover that in the system, or you'll be able to have that stats.
So we haven't really been dealing a lot with trying to generate data that will inform us in terms of the people movements, right? But it's part of what we're planning to do. Like, as an example, we're now looking at using machine learning as an example to detect changes, right, based on satellite imagery, right? So you touched on something very important by saying there's a lot of development that's happening within our dams, right? But there isn't any real system really that can show us exactly how that's happening besides the information that you can get from satellites, right? So within the strata plans, we're looking at developing algorithms that can help us pick up these changes, right? Whether it's land use changes or whether it's new buildings that are being built or whether it's new structures that are being put up, there's definitely a possibility that we could be bringing in that data. I hope I've answered you.
And maybe if I can add to that as well, maybe before you come back, Dr. Klaba, we are also embarking on the new project that we recently got funding for, to look in terms of the displacement and the climate change migration in terms of the movement. Soon we would like to have that brought back to demonstrate in terms of how like the previous April floods can displace people. The people who were affected in a particular area can no longer, reside in that area because of the high risks that have been identified, or maybe the damages were too catastrophic, and then you find them moving into another ward. Maybe an example, if business or communities have been struck by floodings over and over again, like in Isipingo, you find them that they will move their business and then start maybe choosing other areas, maybe other municipalities where you see people are being displaced and being forced to move because of climate change induced impacts. So that will also have impact in terms of how we plan for our services. If a particular ward was concentrated with a particular number of people, but the floods hit hard, and then all the budget that we have invested is no longer used because people have moved out of that ward. And some of the wards which we thought that they need a particular budget, but because there has been that influx of movement towards that particular ward now, in terms of the services and the budget, the planning in terms of how much electricity we are rolling out and the amount of water services that we provide, that will be changed or will be affected by this movement of people. So there is an upcoming project to just maybe also look into that element of the people movement, but particularly for something that has been induced by climate change. So it is really the exciting times, colleagues, just to really get the view in terms of what is happening within our city. And with such project, it gives us an opportunity to not wait for the state essay, because we will have to wait another 10 years just to see the shift in terms of the movement of the people and who are actually being there. Even if it's the people who have been displaced from another municipality moving to our city, you will be able to see that through this program. I think I wanted to say something, but I'm missing it. Lungane, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, it's not much of a question, but rather an input with regards to urbanization quoted and unquoted marks, and with regards to the projects that you just mentioned right now. I think what will assist the organization at large is quick response with regards to the events that are happening within our metropolitan. For instance, if, let's say, this dashboard tool was still existing when looting was occurring, you can instantly get that data. And with regards to the displacement of people due to harsh weather conditions, it's all related to responsiveness. Responsiveness. How quick are you guys to obtain the data while everything is still in the air? So I think that will be much of assistance. And since some organizations are willing to give you guys certain data sets, you can then communicate with them and prompt them to maybe how can I put this? To identify certain communities that they see how or that they know in order to update in order to obtain this data quickly for you guys.
Dongela, that's a very real point. We tried to factor in that element because the way our disaster management colleagues work is that they use manual forms of collecting data. And you're right, we had that opportunity and we used that opportunity to partner with the private sector where they shared their dashboard with us and we could see where the damages were. But obviously not everyone had access to that link in terms of collecting information. And I remember that we were working very hard with the city and the Office of the Premier trying to develop what do we call the assessment forms, the online assessment forms in terms of using the paper manually just to get the feed in terms of the data so that we can profile the areas and the victims in terms of their vulnerability. And I tell you, just by doing that, we were easily able to profile in terms of how many infants, like 1 to 0 infants in what shelter, how many elderly people, and we could profile in terms of their needs so that we can deliver what is required to that. We did take that opportunity to try and automate the system, but I think it's something that we should probably working with our disaster management team and probably in the province to really upscale that and make it a culture and move away from the manual, collection of data to speed up our response. I am not sure if there are any questions or additions. Maybe we can allow the colleagues to maybe do a demo for us. Pumzile, I see you have your hand up.
Okay, thank you, Zama. There's a question from the chat. It is coming from Usandiso. Usandiso is saying, hi team, since we are experiencing the load shedding in our country, is the site won't be affected or is it not running into our server? Thank you.
I love this question, right? The reason for that is that I wanted to actually share that the Strat Hub is based on a cloud platform, right? By that, we mean that it's not hosted internally on a server managed by our internal IT teams. It's hosted on the cloud by making use of what we call service SaaS, which is service, service architecture. I'm kind of forgetting exactly what SaaS means, but it's basically not hosted internally, always available. And also, even if it was hosted internally, most of our servers are protected from load shedding, if you actually notice, right? Just to give credit to IMU as well. But yeah, the answer to that is that we are using cloud platform, both from the dashboarding, data hosting, and presentation perspective. So in inverted commas, we're load shedding proof. Thank you.
Colleagues, I think it's that time we go for a little demo just to have a feel and touch of how the dashboard works. I'm not sure if it's going to be Steno or Jaden who's going to take us through. And please don't forget to share the link on the chat box to the Strat Hub. And maybe colleagues, if they are not that busy this afternoon, they can start, playing around the Strat Hub. But while you are about to share your screen, I think another important point, colleagues, that I want to share with you. The team has been very strategic in terms of the partners that they have, and particularly their source of data in terms of the updates, like some of the data, like SARS data, which can also give us the changes in terms of the demographics of our city, of which I think it's a very good relationship. I was actually surprised that the city can hold such a relationship with SARS, just to show us how we're doing in terms of socioeconomic status in different areas. And I remember actually even saying, you can start, whoever is going to do the sharing, you can start the sharing. I'm just talking as you are about to prepare yourself to do the demo. And looking in terms of where the money was, I remember I used to think that the money is in the northern Umhlanga, and soon when as I saw the demo of the straight happen, I saw that the money is somewhere else. But take this opportunity to look in terms of how we navigate the Strat Hub, and probably play around it, after this session.
Okay, can you see my screen, colleagues?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the link to access the Strat Hub. I'll share the link on the chat as well. This is how it looks. So basically, these are the tabs. If you want to go to dashboards, you go to this tab. Then you get the list of dashboards that we have. And there's a little description of each dashboard on itself. So if you want to view the dashboard, you just click on explore, and then it will give you the details or the information. Then if you want to look at platforms, we have livability index here, where you can just look at the livability of different suburbs. Okay, so you can search for a suburb here, and then you can get the details. We have open SDG. If you want to look at how aligned our city to SDG, you can actually look into it here. Print book Metro View. Again, that's where you can look into the climate of the city. Open SDG, GIS data. It takes you to open data for GIS, and then you can extract the data the way you want, whether you want it for in Excel format or whatever format that you want. You can get the data here, and you have a choice to choose what you want to pull out from GIS. Let me go back to this hub, and then we have the Edge portal. Again, it takes you to the Edge portal website, and again, that's where you can see the economic data if we have interest to it. Okay, so I'll go back to the hub. I'll just open one dashboard. Okay, so one of the dashboard. Okay, let me open the JJ one. Jaden love this one, so I'll open this one. So this one looks into the sentiment analysis of social media, Twitter and Facebook. So I'll wait for it to open. Okay, so this is the dashboard. So where you can see the overall sentiments of people around what people say about our city, whether there are negative sentiments or positive sentiments. From this view, you can see that there's a large number of neutral sentiments, but we do have 28% of negative sentiments above the features above the positive sentiments. So people are not that happy about our service to some extent. And you can see the data. Just to talk about the updates, you can see this is updated. Look at the date. Just to see that it's today's date as we speak. Okay, so if you have an interest on the Twitter or the tweet itself, you can just click it and open it. But you can further scroll to see other pages where we're looking at different look at tweets by categories like political tweets. You can look at health-related tweets, and you can apply your filters here. Like if you want to look at only negative tweets, you can just click here, and then you'll see a list of tweets that are coming from the public that were negative, and then you can click on each tweet to. I think it will take you to Twitter if I remember correctly. Just that I haven't used this dashboard for quite some time. And then you can just apply your filter like that. Okay. Here, these are keywords. A lot of the keywords that were, appearing on that tweet. You can further slice it by these categories as well. If you want to look at traffic-related tweets, education, just select education. And these are the keywords that people are tweeting about when it comes to education. You can see universities, the way that people have tweeted more about. Okay, so if you go to health, you get a different, people are talking about COVID and things like hospitals, jobs. You get a different set of tweets. Where people are talking about your job is the highest word that people have been tweeted about. And again, you can apply your filters there. You can search and just search the tweets if you have a specific phrase that you're looking for. Okay. So yeah, that's how you actually use the dashboard. Also now it's looking at tweets by location on this part. So you can see which part of there's a high concentration of tweets that were around this part of the map. I think this is Africa. So this is South Africa. So here you get a lot of tweets that are coming from this side. But again, you see these tweets also that are coming from overseas as well. High concentration. Maybe there's large number of people from South Africa who are sitting who are in this area or in this country. Okay, in Europe as well. So you can see tweets by map, through the map as well. And you can apply your filter as well to if you want to look at positive tweets specifically. You can just apply your filter. Look at you see it shows you only negative tweets that came through. And if there's if you want to look at negative tweets or positive, let's just look at negative tweets just to see how many. Yeah, you're still getting a lot of them all over the world. So on this view, you get to see tweets by location. Okay. Okay, now we're going to the next tab. It's taking a little bit of time, maybe because of the network, because this is online, it's not on-prem. So if the internet is low, you could find a delay. So I guess that's the reason why it's not coming up so fast. Go to the next page to see if that one will come up quickly. Okay, this one is much quicker. So then maybe there was a lot more data on that tab specifically. And again, here I think we looking at various tweets by various categories, and you can see the weights that are buzzing on Twitter. Okay, and again here you get to see various. You can search for a tweet. Again, you can apply your filters like that. I just want to go to Facebook pages as well, because there's also Facebook API that we connected to here. So again, you get to see here, all the comments from Twitter. You can view a specific comment, or you can search. You also look at various comments. Okay, this is selected. Various comments from Facebook. Corruption. People are complaining about corruption. So if I click this word, you can really get to see what people are talking about really here. Okay, so you can read the tweets like in your own time to see exactly what people are complaining about when it comes to corruption. But you can see that really you can access the APIs and what people are complaining about when it talks about our city. So unfortunately, they are talking about corruption and crime. You can look at crime as well, what people are saying when it relates to crime. Okay. On Facebook. Okay.
Madlagovo, if you don't mind, please do take time to go to the GIS. I saw Helen had asked if you have maps for the suburbs in this platform. just to demo in terms of what is it that you have.
I think on the GIS, I'll allow Zweli to just take them through because he's the one who specializing on the GIS. Maybe you will have better example to use. Zweli, do you mind?
Maybe I require the question to be unpacked, right? Because the question was, if I read it, maybe I understand it differently. It says that, do you have a map of the suburbs as defined in this platform? I think that relates to the livability index, right? So my answer to that was that the suburbs that are on the livability index are aligned to the GIS suburbs data, right? Yes, we're not presenting a map there, but those can be mapped. So all of those are aligned to the official suburbs that are used from the city, which the source for is the GIS. And we can provide a map for all of them.
Helen, are you covered? If you're covered, please give us a thumbs up.
No, I'm not covered. Yes
Then,
and no. Can I just clarify? What I meant was when I'm viewing this information, I would like to see it spatially represented. I'd like to know what the extent of the suburb is. So I can be clear that that's what how do I look at this information and then get access to the map? Is it in a different location?
So what we haven't done, right, which we can take as a suggestion right now, is including a map on the livability index, right? So we just never did that development. So if that's what you're looking for, Helene, we can definitely take that as a suggestion.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, I think that's it from the startup presentation. Unless if there are any other questions, I think we can need it the whole day to present different dashboards. If maybe there's an interest, we can maybe arrange another session for that.
I suppose, and maybe if colleagues can indicate maybe by thumbs up if it will be a good session just to have one session where there's sort of like a tutorial session where everybody logs into the Straight Hub and see how the feel and make if Stino or Zweli or Jaden navigate if you want to go and click this, and you also click on your side while you're looking at the screen while they're doing it, just to get the comfort in terms of using the dashboard and establish your limitations, just an interactive session where you can have that session where you would like to have that tutorial. I see thumbs up. So guys, I'm throwing you under the bus to say that now, yes, they've got the link, they can practice this afternoon, but it would be nice to really get comfortable where everybody goes to the dashboard and you all click and you can see on your side that it's clicking just to get that practice. So I am getting that feel. I saw the thumbs up. So what do we have here? The what details?
Yeah, this is just the word profile dashboard that shows various information in terms of the population of the city and, breaking down the population by gender, race, different zones, and you can actually see the information by map. And the councillors will be more interested into this dashboard, and maybe various people of the communities to understand how many people are in their wards. And as well as you select on the map, let's say this is your ward, you get the information gets filtered, get an analysis of household income and the range of income in that particular area. And again, you can select any ward that you maybe ward of your focus. Okay, that's just a highlight of this dashboard, and you can see by party name people like the ward. I mean the ward information, ward profile by party name. As you know that certain wards are for specific parties. Like here, you'll notice that this ward is for ANC, and then you can see different priorities and hierarchies of projects and different projects within the city. Yeah. I think you can go to the next slide and just look at, again, you look at the age of people within the city, and you can apply your filters again and look at a specific ward of your choice. Yeah, there's more. I think I can just spend the whole day talking about this dashboard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for taking time to do this presentation, just to share with the colleagues what we have as the city. Because I think this is our gem. It's a very good investment for the city, for us in terms of our planning and our decision making. Just like information, as you can see, how the people are feeling about us as the city live from Twitter and any other social media platforms. I think this is a very valuable tool that I will encourage colleagues to use as their source of information, as the most updated information to go to. And I like the way it's able to also give you just those summary information, the quick summary information that you require for anything that probably you want to do. I saw a hand coming up, and as I'm about to close. But please, colleagues, feel free to put recommendations continuously. And then probably we'll see another session where we have just a play session in terms of how to use the Strat Hub. Can I take that hand? There's a hand up I saw. Oh dear. Komocho. Ungangshay, if I pronounce your name incorrectly. You can come through. Pumzile, do you think he or she has a challenge with the mic?
I have no idea, but everyone is allowed to just unmute themselves and speak. Let me just try and get hold of her. Okay, I'm trying to go to her, but I can't see anything that is a problem. Khomocho, if it's possible, please, if you can maybe use your mic, can you please just share whatever that you needed to say on the chat? Thank you.
And this one is for the inventory, different items in the city. The SCM unit requested this one, but you can track various items in various units, like the stock items. You can look at it by cluster. The critical items, there's item description. You can filter the specific item that you're looking for, and then the dashboard can tell you where you could potentially find it. Yeah, so yeah, you can actually, it's just a good dashboard to use if you're from a SCM unit. And I'm sure they can have many user cases around this because it's their data. Okay. in a glance, you can see that trading services, there is a lot of items, you know, that have been bought or that they've been ordered, and you can see that it's the highest unit, you know, with a lot of stock in place. I may put it like that. You can also look at different contracts that we have. Like if the ones they are the ones that are about to expire or not to expire, you can actually look at that as well for different items. Okay, I think that's it for my end.
I think that's more than enough. Thank you so much, colleagues. Like I indicated at the beginning, that this is the candy shop. You can never get enough of this platform. There's a lot to consume. There's a lot of data that in the way the data is packaged, it's so user friendly. So thank you, colleagues, for attending this session. I hope you had a great time. It was valuable for you. You learned something, and you see the value in what the colleagues are doing. Actually, the Straight Hub, like I indicated, is for us, the city, and our stakeholders. Please make use of it, and we also appreciate your input in terms of the recommendations that you would like to see in the future, that you think might be very valuable to this platform. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed your lunch with us, and I hope you have a good and a safe weekend. And we will see you next time with our brown bag session. And hopefully we are going to have that brown bag with the displacement due to climate change displacement. I see Komoso is back. Can you try, Komoso, and say what we want to say as we are closing up? I want to give you an opportunity because I saw you. Are you able to speak? Clearly not. Today was not your day, but you can always email us, put it on the chat, and I'm sure the colleagues will be able to assist you with any question that you have. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, colleagues, for joining. Bye.
Thank you so much for this.